Hey everybody, today Rahdo runs through his top 10 played games of all time. Although all time really isn't that long for me. I've only been hardcore into modern designer board gaming since 2009. And the reality of my current lifestyle choice of being a board game videographer means I very rarely get to go back and replay games once I've finished the run through. And yet in spite of that, I'm about to talk about 10 games which I have put in some serious time to. And let's see, I got the list right over there. I got the stack right here. Interesting thing, probably one thing of note is a lot of these titles I've had for a long time. A lot of them really kind of worked up their play count before I started doing Rahdo runs through. So you're going to see like kind of a big gap between older titles, 2009, 2010, 2011-ish, and then more modern, up-to-date ones with kind of like this big gap in between. But yeah, that's the way it works for me. People wanted to know, so we're going to start out with number 10. Martin Wallace's London, which is a fantastic game. This is one of those older ones I was talking about. Now, I reckon to date I've played this. I have no hard and fast numbers for any of these except for my number one. I know exactly how many times I've played that. But all these other ones, I'm taking a rough guesstimate. I think I've probably played this around 12 times, give or take. And considering Jen's and my speed of play, that puts this at around 20 hours. Very, very wonderful engine building game as players compete to build up the best, most prosperous boroughs of London over the course of a few hundred years. And yeah, I've done a run through for it. This has also made my top 10 engine building games. It's absolutely awesome. And interestingly, it's going to be getting a reprint within the next year or so. Completely redone art, tweaked rules. I don't know how I feel about that because I love this one. I mean, if it were any other game, I'd go on ahead and jettison this and get ready for the new one. But we've put so much good time into London. I don't know if I could say goodbye. But anyway, that's number 10, London. Now, on to number 9, another older title, Keyflower. I reckon, again, I've also played this around, give or take, 12 times. And again, I'm assuming somewhere between 20 and 25 hours total. Jen and I have spent building up colonies and engaging in all kinds of auctions to be the best we could at Keyflower. I've done so many run-throughs for this game because one of the things that's actually made this a repeat customer for us is there are 3 big expansions that have come out for it so far. So every time an expansion comes out, yay! I get to go back and play it, and otherwise I probably wouldn't have. That's probably what puts this ahead of London. If London had gotten some expansions along the way, it probably would have beaten out Keyflower. But Keyflower wins. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful game. This is also, I think, it's in my top 10 games of all time. It's interesting, a lot of these games are in my top 10 or top 20. I tend to find the more I play a game, the more I like it. Go figure. Anyway, that was number 9, Keyflower. Now on to number 8, Fresco. Another oldie but a goodie. This is one of Jen's top 10 of all time, and I really love it too. An absolutely wonderful game of players trying to manage the life of a master Renaissance artist who is working on a fresco of, Sistine Chapel-esque type thing while basically figuring out how you're going to spend your day after day. How much time do you spend painting? How much time do you spend at the market? How much time do you spend going to the local theater? It's a wonderful, charming game. Has an excellent example of a 2-player dummy player to tighten the board up. Works really, really well. The Leonardo character, which both players can use to their advantage over the course of the game. It's one of these examples where a dummy player actually makes the game deeper and richer, which is absolutely cool. And this is interesting. I think this one, what am I at? This one's a bit more around 15 or so plays, probably around 25 hours though, because this is a bit quicker than Keyflower. And this one, again, is another example of an older game that has gotten several expansions. So every time I cover the expansion, I get to get it out and play it again. But also, we've had great luck using Fresco as a gateway game. We've actually played this a few times with Jen's parents when we were first showing them what this board gaming thing is all about. Jen has several artist friends who have been drawn to the subject matter, so we've used it as a gateway with them because the game actually has, you can play full all rules turned on, or you can play a more stripped down, streamlined, family-friendly variant, which is makes this a very, very versatile game too. My number 8, Fresco. Then on to number 7. Now we have a newer one. Roll for the Galaxy. Although this is the expansion box here, but I fit the entire game, the base game plus the expansion, into the expansion box to save shelf space. Let's see, I reckon we've played this one about 50 times now. give or take 5 or so. Hard to be exact. Again, this is interesting. I think of those 50, that's all told maybe around 30 hours. Jen plays this every chance she gets. This is easily, I think this is in her top 3 of all time. When people come and visit us after we played the game that I needed to play with them, if there's time they want to play another one, this is probably what we're going to play. Although, man, this is a hard game to teach. I've taught this game so many times now. But it's an absolutely delightful dice version of the modern classic Race for the Galaxy. And, Jen and I, we've played it so much now, we've gotten it down to where we'll, box open, set up, play, put it all away in under 20 minutes, which is why, even though I've played this so many times, it's still on the lower end at number 7, only 30 hours total. But absolutely phenomenal game. Love it to death. Number 7, Roll for the Galaxy. And then on to number 6, Dungeon Petz. Oh, another one of Jen's faves of all time. That's going to be another recurring theme here. Because if we ever do get a chance to play an older title, it's probably going to be one that Jen wants to play because she needs a break from playing all the new stuff. Me, I love playing all the new stuff. And this is another one of Jen's favorites. Actually, I think this might be tied for her first or second place of all time. Phenomenal worker placement game where players are running a little family of imps who are trying to raise pets, dungeon pets, so they can sell to prospective dungeon lords. Really clever, a lot of stuff, incredible amount of charm. And what have we? Again, my rough estimates, again, this is going to be another around 12 times or so, but this one generally takes us longer, so I'm clocking this in. We probably put in around 30 hours. Interestingly, this has had one big expansion, and we liked the expansion, but we didn't love it. And since then, we played a couple times since then, and we tend not to use the expansion. I'm really surprised by it because the expansion was maybe just a little bit too much. Although all the new pets that came in the expansion, we definitely use those, but we just don't use the whole dark alley thing. Great, great game. Number 6, Dungeon Petz. And then on to number 5. Oh, this is a new one. This is my favorite. This is what I'd rather be playing every time we play Roll for the Galaxy, Shadowrun Crossfire. My reckoning, we have played this around 40 times, give or take, putting in around 30 hours or so in total. Our characters are, I think, in the low 30s, low to mid 30s. I'd have to pull it out and look it up. And I haven't probably played this now for 6 months, which is kind of a bummer because I would happily, I mean, this is like Roll for the Galaxy. This is a great game. We can bang out, get it set up, played, and put away in probably around a half an hour, which again explains why even though it has so many more plays, it's still kind of on the lower end. At 40 plays, around 30 hours or so. But it's absolutely phenomenal. High stress, high stakes, incredibly challenging cooperative game with a minor legacy kind of element, because the more you play, the more experience points, or karma points they're called, that you get to spend over time to level your character up. Very much like a slow leveling grind in something of World of Warcraft or something like that, where the more you play, the more powerful you become. Although you'll have to play a half a dozen to a dozen full sessions before you earn enough experience to ding and go up to the next level. But I love it. I find it compulsive. I'd happily play it right now. It's also a really phenomenal solo game, although you have to play two-handed, unfortunately, to control 2 characters, which is a shame, but absolutely, absolutely lovely. Can't wait to try the new sequel to it, Dragonfire, which is the same basic game but set in the Dungeons & Dragons universe. Although I've heard that Dragonfire gets a lot easier, and I'm a little nervous about that because one of the things that makes this so great is just how challenging it is, and that's what brings me back for more and more and more of my number 5, Shadowrun Crossfire. Now on to number 4, Legends of Andor. Let's see, by my reckoning, we probably played Andor and its expansion, Journey to the North, around 20 times or so. I've completely finished all of the Bane box of Andor, and then I played the mission number 3. Geez, a ton of times. Every time we get a promo for new characters, we go back and play Mission 3 and, all the little promos that have been made available. We've played about half of Journey to North, and I haven't been quite as compelled to go back because, honestly, the base Andor is better than this expansion. But even still, I definitely want to finish it. Even so Andor is amazing gameplay, and I want to get it finished before the 3rd and final chapter of the trilogy comes out. It's already out in German, should be out in English, hopefully this year or early next year, fingers crossed. But still, one of my favorites of all time, an absolutely amazing cooperative fantasy adventure game that, again, is also very, very challenging. And the puzzle of how to win is always very fresh and compelling. Absolutely love Legend of Andor, number 4. And then on to number 3, Pandemic. And when I say pandemic, I'm talking about pandemic in all its forms. Regular pandemic, on the brink, state of emergency, and legacy, which as far as I'm concerned is just another expansion for the game. I have successfully played, I finished legacy. In fact, actually, I had 2 copies of it, and Jen and I have played all the way through the pandemic legacy campaign twice, and on top of that we played regular pandemic, and we actually played regular pandemic mixing and matching legacy elements with the other expansions several times as well. By my reckoning, I think we played pandemic in some form or other around 50 times now over the course of our life. Another thing, pandemic was our gateway game. It was the one that actually brought us into the modern board game world, so I owe pandemic and its designer Matt Leacock a huge debt of gratitude for changing my life for the better. 50 times, probably around 70 hours, give or take. Pandemic can take 40 minutes. It can take an hour and a half. And in fact, actually, when we were playing Legacy, we were banging through the adventures in around an hour, the individual sessions, but then there was all the post-session strategizing and planning and leveling up and all the stuff we had to do. Absolutely amazing. Pandemic Legacy has given me my single best gaming experiences of my life. But Pandemic as a whole, in all its different shapes and sizes, has just been absolutely amazing. And I cannot wait, folks. Cannot wait. Before the year is out, Jen and I will be playing Pandemic Legacy 2. Don't spoil anything. Please don't post anything about it. I'm avoiding trailers. I'm avoiding looking at the back of the box. I know almost nothing. I want to go in completely blind. Super excited. Anyway, that's number 3, Pandemic. And now number 2, Agricola. Again, by my reckoning, it's hard to say. I think we've played Agricola probably upwards of 40 times, somewhere between the mid-30s and low 40s is roughly. This is one of the older games as well. I discovered Agricola within 6 months of becoming a die-hard board gamer in 2009, 2010. And for a while, we played this every single weekend. While I was still working full-time, every Sunday, it was going to be, hey, we get our breakfast and we sit down and we play another game of Agricola. We just devoured this game. And so, again, around 40-ish plays. I think I've put in, give or take, around 80 hours. Hard to say, maybe upwards of 90. What does there say? It's an okay worker placement game, but what really elevates this is the long-term strategizing you do. One of the things that keeps us from playing this more often is the fact that when we set out to play, we play with the card draft variant where we get a whole bunch of cards and then we have to go through and eliminate 3 of each of the minor improvements and of the occupations. And whenever we set up, I'm setting up the board, I give Jen her cards, I give my cards, and then I know I just got to walk away for 20 minutes because it's going to take Jen that long to figure out what her overall strategy for the entire game is going to be. And that's why we love Agricola so much. All that deep thinking right from the get-go, and then you're going to spend an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, depending on how it goes, seeing how, trying to make those plans come to fruition. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's in my top 3 games of all time, and it's my number 2 most played game, Agricola. But the number 1, this is a surprise, and this one I know exactly how many times I played it. Jen and I have played this game 47 times, and the total amount of time we played is well over 100 hours now. I couldn't tell you exactly how much. It generally takes us 2.5 to 3.5 hours to play a session, so it's way up there in the stratosphere. What is it? Gloomhaven. And this kind of completely flies in the face of what I said at the beginning, that these are all most of these have been older games from the time back before I was doing Rahdo Runs Through, and we could afford to play a game over and over and over again if we loved it. Gloomhaven is so good, we have made the time. Gloomhaven is finally the game that's gotten us back into that Sunday groove of, hey, every Sunday, we're going to sit down, we're going to have breakfast, and we're going to play a game. Except this one, it always takes about 2 to 3 hours to do it. And the interesting thing is, we've often found, let's just do it on Monday as well. In spite of the fact that I rarely have time to revisit favorites, we are finding a way to do it. We have played 47 times, and that includes, I think I have to look it up, I think around 5 losses, which is to say, even though we could make the game push us harder, we just play at the normal difficulty, so we win more often than not, which I think is absolutely essential. If we were to put 3 hours into a session and then lose because we're playing at the higher difficulty level, I don't think Jen would put up with it. Me, I think I'm a bit more welcoming of like a really hardcore challenge, but for us, Gloomhaven played at regular difficulty is perfect. We've each retired 3 characters now, I think. We're each working on our 4th character. We're probably about 2/3 of the way through the game. I don't know exactly because I've been trying not to look ahead. I don't want to spoil anything for myself. I'll be sad when it's done. Although heck, maybe right around that time is when we'll switch over to Pandemic Legacy. But in the meantime, for now anyway, and for the foreseeable future, because like I said, once Jen gets back from this month-long vacation, I imagine the first thing we're going to do is play another game of Gloomhaven, because we haven't played it for a month. We're both jonesing for our fix. And as of now, it is my #1 most played game of all time. Over 100 hours, 47 individual sessions, Gloomhaven. And that's it, folks. Just a very, very quick, simple run through. Hopefully you found that of interest. It was just mostly kind of Rahdo trivia for the most part. But thanks for watching. Have a very, very nice day. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.